and we are live.
Okay, thank you, Zach. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of What's the Tea here at Anew, Building Beyond Violence and Abuse, formerly known as South Suburban Family Shelter. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Today, we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic. We're going to be talking about the intersection between technology and abuse. Before I go into the topic, I do want to encourage you all to ask questions. This is a live episode, so we will have some time at the end of the video to answer any questions in the comments. So please feel free to comment, share this video with your friends on your page, on all types of social media, and like it, comment, just get this information out there, right? So we're going to be talking about the intersection between technology and abuse. And I have somebody here with me who knows a lot about technology. Thank you for being here with us, Miriam.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk about all the different ways that abusers use technology as a tactic of abuse, as a way to maintain power and control. And we're also going to talk about what are some ways that we can use technology to stay safe. How can we support victims? How can we support survivors of abuse? So before I do go into this topic, Miriam, can you please introduce yourself, whatever it is you want to share? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name is Miriam, and I work with organizations like Anew and other domestic violence agencies. We pretty much are an IT company that supports their environment, and they were kind enough to ask me to put in my input on some of the stuff that can, help you guys out. We've been around for a very long time, and working with organizations just like yourself has gotten me a lot of information, and I just want to help in any way I can.
Awesome. If you can share, I know you talked to me about this a little bit, about how you got to this position, what it is that you studied, because I know you had a long way to get here.
Yeah, it's been a long way. So, we came here as immigrants, and so as you know, it's not an easy road. Worked really hard, went to school, worked 2 jobs, and went to school at the same time, and put in a lot of hours and a lot of effort, and really just never giving up. Right. So there's a goal at the end of everything. And once you have that, you realize that, its potential, and you can pretty much accomplish it if you just stick with it.
That's awesome. Really, really good advice. It's really motivating. And I'm happy to see that you've gotten to where you want to get. That's amazing. I know it wasn't an easy journey for you. I'm happy to see you where you are. And I'm happy that you're able to help us because you're easy to work with. But let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. So I want to ask you, Miriam, can technology open up new avenues for abuse?
It definitely can. Technology, as we know, changes every day. It's progress, let's say, like from when you and I were in school, right? We didn't have as much information available to us immediately. There weren't so many platforms. I mean, I remember just going to the school library, trying to take out a book and doing my research and then typing a paper. All that's changed. So it's a good thing, right? Because we can pretty much get our answers a lot quicker, but in other forms, it's not necessarily the best thing, especially when it comes to domestic violence and abuse. There's a lot of it going on. It happens every day. Sometimes it happens without us even knowing, right? Because we're so used to putting information out there, but we don't know who's seeing it, who's receiving it, where it's being held, how long it's being held for, and how it can be manipulated. So yeah, technology is great, but in certain instances, you have to be very, very careful.
Exactly. Like you said, it doesn't stop changing, right? So whether we like it or not, we've got to kind of learn how to use it because that's the new normal, that's the new world. Let's talk about what are some of those ways that abusers use technology as a tactic of abuse.
Well, it's quite simple, right? Nowadays, most of us have a smart device. Smart device means it has the ability to reach the internet, it has the ability to browse, and most of us are very used to taking pictures of things and posting them on our social media platforms or emailing them, or we're part of chat groups, and there's so many chat group platforms out there. So since we're doing this on a daily basis, we're not really realizing that we sent somebody information. There might be a third person or fourth person in that group that you don't know. And they might be, all they have to do is click on a photo and save it to their library, right? So it's so simple to take that information you put out there and then now it becomes theirs. So there's laws that kind of prohibit things like this, and there's laws that tell you that it's okay. And most laws are designed, unfortunately, these days to back up the internet and the technology companies and social media platforms than they are you. Because once it leaves your hands, it becomes public information, public knowledge now, because you put it on a public platform. And when you sign up for certain platforms, I don't really read the 100-page discretion, right, or disclaimer of to what they can and cannot do with it. We pretty much just agree and move forward. So that is something they can come back with and say, hey, you agree to this unknowingly, but you agreed to it, and now we can do whatever we want with this information. So that's the whole thing about it. It's like when you put information out there, and I always tell this to a lot of people, is the more you put out there, the more easier it is for it to come back and bite you. And you have to be very conscious. And nowadays, especially when you're like teens or, you're constantly on your phone. This is the world we live in. Our studies are now being performed on, schools on the computers now, and everything is just so web-based and technology-based that we're doing things and we're not even knowing what we're doing. So you have to be very conscious of what especially when it comes to your image, your personal information, you know what you're putting out there, that because you're purposely doing it. So you have to be careful with what you're putting out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All these different apps, they have location tracking. If you share your location, everybody on there can just see where you are at all times.
Right.
So that's crazy.
Yeah, and that's location tracking is a very useful tool, right? A lot of people have it because, I have it and I have it on my parents, and that's because in the event that something were to happen to them, I know where they are. So it's a very useful tool in that sense, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it gets used in the right way, especially when you're dealing with domestic violence or your abuser's trying to locate you. That's not necessarily the best tool to have. There's so many out there that have this. So when you have a smartphone, I always advise this: if you have a smartphone and you know that your abuser might have the ability to locate you with their device and your device being linked in some way or through some app, turn off your device. Just turn it off. All you need to do is turn off the device so that way they cannot locate you. What you need to do is make sure you have a couple numbers memorized, or be in touch with a neighbor or a safe place where you can immediately go. And that's what allow you to get to a safe location and then, use their device, or use their internet, or use their computer and make a phone call, or go to the nearest police station or somewhere safe, right? So it's not like the good old days where you can go outside, hail a cab, and there it is. Now we rely on Uber and Lyft and all these other places. So there's another barrier. So as technology is progressing, it also took away a lot of the things that were really convenient then, and now they're gone. But in some certain circumstances, we can still use it, right? One example is a cab service. But if you're in a safe place, you can always, always, always use their device or use their phone to call somebody and go somewhere safe before doing anything.
Perfect.
A lot of apps there's so many apps that have, your bank accounts are tied together. They can see where you're using and all this information. It's not like you have to go to the bank anymore. It's right there. It's available immediately. As soon as you make a charge, they'll know where you are. So you got to be conscious of what you're doing and how you're going to approach the situation. And not everybody's fortunate that they have a ton of help, right? Not everybody can just grab a couple $100 out of the safe and go and be like, yeah, I'll be fine for the night. I'll go somewhere. I'll figure it out. In that situation, the best thing to do is reach out to organizations. You're like a hotline number that can be called 24 hours and make an arrangement. And, I know you guys will do anything and everything in your power to get somebody safe, provide all the resources you can, whether it's a cab ride or a night at a hotel or a shelter or whatever it is. So just if you are, when you're going into that situation, when things are bad, right? When it's about to happen. It's almost like a feeling, right? And when it's going to happen, it's coming. Before that happens, try to move yourself into a more secure situation and then address how things are together, right? So bank accounts and all that other stuff, and approach that accordingly.
Definitely trust your instincts with these types of situations. Definitely. So what I'm hearing is that, just to double check, when you turn off your phone, this is something that I actually didn't know. I'm not big on technology. I don't know too much about it. But as long as your phone is turned off, then you can't be tracked.
You
Is that
cannot.
right? Okay.
As long as the phone is turned off, there's no internet on the phone. So if there's no internet on the phone, it's only going to show the last location. So if I was to turn off
Okay.
to trace it, it'll show that it was at my house. And if I took it with me, even after the fact, if I took it with me, then nobody will know where it is.
Nice.
That's the internet, again, is the most powerful tool because that is what connects everything to everything. And as long as it's not getting any internet to the phone, it cannot be traced.
Okay. All right. And then I liked how you mentioned, just make sure you memorize some numbers. A lot of us are not doing that anymore. A lot of us, we don't know our own phone number. We don't know, our husband's, our parents' phone number, just because all we do is go search up contacts, dad, and hit call, and we don't know anybody's phone number. So memorizing, your support system and their phone numbers can be really, really helpful, or just having it written down on a piece of paper in your car. If you're not going to memorize it,
Yeah,
can be
that's what
really
I call
helpful.
a safeguard, right? Have the information that you need in and put it in multiple places, right? Obviously not in the reach of where it can be found by the abuser. Be like, yeah, all right, well, here's all the information I need to locate this person now, but keep it in a safe spot. I mean, I've heard of people actually just fold up a piece of paper and put it in their shoes or socks or something that they know that if they were to walk out, they would have this piece of paper with them. And that they can, it seems kind of like we're going back to the olden days, but really it's a lifesaver, right? In that moment, you're not looking at, convenience as to how you're getting this information. It's more like time is the essence, and you have to kind of approach it that way. So, it's like you don't have to remember it, but just remember to keep something like that handy. So it's available for you when you're ready to go.
Exactly. And we talk a lot about safety planning here in the agency and here on these T episodes. So a lot of the time, yeah, you do have to flee in an emergency. You got to get out, like you said, call an agency like ours and get help. But when you do have the opportunity to come up with a safety plan, having that with you in your bag or whatever items you're taking with you is definitely really helpful.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the other ways. I know we talked before, we talked a little bit about those apps. I'm not sure what they're called, but they're like spying apps that somebody can easily just download on your phone, and they're hiding in there. You wouldn't even know that they're on there. So, this could be even for people who don't know or haven't realized that they are in an abusive situation. How might somebody figure out whether these apps are on their phone?
Well, it's obviously when it's so hard, they're designed to be undetectable, right? So to someone like who doesn't check for these things, they'll never know it's there. And it's how do they get it is the question. How would I get something like this? And it's very simple. I can send you a text and say, hey, Celeste, I need you to click on this link and tell me what you think. What do you think about this picture or this article? Very simple. And all you would do is, all right, let me take a look at what they sent me. And they're coded, or they're designed to pretty much, as soon as you click the link, they will be installed on your iOS device or your Android device in the background. Now, the background is very big. It can go, it's very in-depth, and it's very, someone who knows what they're doing can pretty much design an application to run in the background without you even knowing. So it might not appear as an app on your phone or, in your applications. It'll just be in the background, like I said. So those are very, very, very hard to detect. And for someone who's not in an abusive situation, they never really have to worry about it. But if you are in an abusive situation, that should never leave your mind. Like, that could be a possibility. It can happen. It's something that you can pay for and buy. There's so many third-party ones. And I can find you guys an article and share that link with you guys later on what are some of the ones that you can pretty much look for or have an idea. The other way is of really knowing is, let's just say in the event that this actually happens to you and they've got this application on your phone, you're doing things and your abuser is recognizing that you're doing things, let's say. So that's a very big indicator that they know where you are or what you're doing, because they
Yes.
Right. So let's just say you said, I went out for coffee, but you went somewhere else. And they know you went somewhere else because there's a way that they're either physically following you, they're following your device, or they've got an application that pretty much is telling them where you're going.
Yeah.
Those apps that are meant for tracking, they can be great for when you have like little children and you want to see where they are. But on the other hand, when you're in a situation like this, they're not necessarily the best. So use your,
Your instinct.
on this one and really approach it. And that's why I say when you are in a situation like this, the best thing to do is just turn off your device. Turn it off. If it's
Definitely.
going to be able to locate you.
Yeah, and I think I remember reading that some of these apps on your phone, they can go into your social media or your text messages and see, what you're sending out there. So I would also say something to look out for is, if there's something that you never talked about in front of this person who you think might have these apps on your phone, and suddenly they start knowing different things about you. They start knowing where you were, even though you never told them.
Right.
Some things that you might have texted other people, then this could be one of the warning signs that maybe this is going on. Maybe there is some type of surveillance or app on your phone.
Yeah. Like, businesses have to kind of deal with phishing emails, right? So let's say an email comes through and it's asking you to sign into something. It's the same concept with mobile applications as well. You might get an email saying, hey, I need you to sign into this account because something's wrong. And you don't know. And we're trained to look for these type of things. So I always just make sure where the link is going. And 99.9% of the time, I know if I'm expecting a message like this. But if it randomly comes and people aren't paying attention, they will click and they'll sign in like, oh, something's wrong with my bank account. Like, why is Chase emailing me? And they'll log in. Boom, they've got it because they have an application that's designed to actually capture the strokes that you made on your keys. So they have your username and password. So that's why you have to be very, very careful. If you're not expecting it, nothing is wrong, then don't fill out anything
That's really interesting because I've gotten emails from companies that I'm not a part of. I don't use them for anything. And they're telling me something about my account. I'm like, I don't even have an account with you guys. Never have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that happens as well. And some other things that I remember, like having read or just how to notice that there might be one of these apps on your phone is if your battery is being used too much, you're not even using your phone so much, but the battery is being used, or the internet as well. You can see how much of the internet is being used. There you go, your data.
Right. Yeah, so you can always monitor your battery usage. So let's say, your battery drains in 3 to 4 hours. If there's an application constantly running, it's going to drain your battery. And the same thing goes with as your battery drains, your data usage will go higher. So if your data like, well, I didn't watch any videos for the past month, or I haven't done this or that, but my internet bill or data usage is so high, that could be an indicator. Sometimes people don't really pay attention to that because they're like, well, maybe I left my phone on for a little bit longer than, or I didn't turn it off correctly, or I didn't shut off of an application correctly that's got, constant feeds coming through that might be causing it. Sometimes they have push notifications for emails that always drains batteries because it's constantly going from your email to check for new messages and stuff like that. So that's how they don't really pay attention to it, but that could be a very good indicator.
Yeah, like you say, it could be so many other things too. Also, the older your phone is, the less your battery lasts. So a lot of us could just think, oh, my phone's getting old.
Right. And that's again, it comes down to you'll know, right? You guys, the clients that you guys deal with, a lot of them probably say that we knew it was going to happen, or we knew it was coming, or, we had this feeling. So when you know it's going to happen, you'll have this feeling, and just be careful from that point forward.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I would, if you're in a situation like this, deactivate your social media accounts, deactivate anything that's got your pictures, videos, posts, anything that's on the web that they can easily go back. So I can find you on Facebook, and I can find a picture of you, and I can download it and save it to my library. And then I can take that picture and a completely different profile and call you something else.
Yes. That reminds me of you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So that reminds me of you in our last time we met. You talked about how you should always log out of your accounts.
Right.
So that's also important as well.
Yeah, because again, those are public platforms, right? Unless your page is private and you have a group of people that you only are friending or are friends with, that information, if your page is not, private, it's public. And in that sense, anybody can go in and I can randomly just find a Jane Smith and be like, all right, I'll take this photo very easily. And they don't even necessarily need to download it, right? They can pretty much just use a little thing called snipping tool from your computer and snip this photo and now it's mine, So the more that's out there, again, it may help you, it may hurt you. And 99% of times it's more hurtful and it is helping. And what I tend to see is this information that's out there is for people that may or may not be there for you when you need help. So why are we putting information out there for individuals to see about our lives that someone we are a part of every day? And in some instances, like if you're an influencer or whatever, that's how you make your bread and butter. And I can understand that, but everyday individuals like myself, I don't do that, right? I don't put anything out there that I don't want people knowing, because who I am, where I am, and how I got here, the 300 friends that are my friends on Facebook weren't a part of that, right? It was just me and 5 or 6 other people. So I'm not gonna share irrelevant information to people that really didn't, weren't part of my life.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's very hard to follow that rule, but it's very helpful because we live in a time and age where we want to, what did we have for lunch? Here you go. I'm going to post it. So that's another one. I'm checking into places on your social media. So let's just say your Tuesdays are your, I go to, Zupa's Cafe. So they know every Tuesday you go there. So there you go. That's an indicator of like where you might be throughout the week and what vicinity you're in. So that's more information that you're putting out there that could be hurtful.
Yeah, definitely. So what I'm hearing is like technology, there's definitely pros and cons. We don't want to say that all these things are bad, but they can be used, in a negative way. That is obviously not what they were made for. So let's talk about this smart homes. And smart homes, I feel like definitely something that I would love to have. I would love to be able to change my thermostat while I'm in the office and, all these things. But how can this be used as a form of abuse?
Yeah, it's actually very, so smart homes are, yeah, like you said, you want to be able to control your temperature, and those are fine things. But also in these homes, like we've got a camera that faces outdoors, for example, and that's for our dog, just to make sure that, we've got coyotes and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, that's what we got it for. But in the long run, or if anything were to go negative, I know that device that's sitting right there can also capture me outside doing what I shouldn't be, or, that could be used in a negative light. So again, you have to be conscious. And there's devices that are so tiny that are the size of your button. They're placed in anywhere, really. You can put it anywhere. There's a really interesting movie on Netflix called 13 Cameras. And it's about this individual who has cameras throughout the house, and they rent it out for Airbnb, but it really sheds light on how these cameras can be installed in various different locations throughout the house. So if you guys ever want to watch this, just to get an idea, it doesn't have anything to do with, DV, but just a little info or insight on how cameras can be hidden. But they're hidden. I mean, I could have one hidden in my house, but that's how tiny and how good they are nowadays. So don't do anything like in the house that's, that may raise any red flags or could cause any distress for you. Always step outside if you need to, if there's a private conversation. So like I said, if there was a smart home and we have, for example, we have an Alexa that has the ability to record, let's say, or it has the ability to drop in. So I have an Alexa sitting right there, and somebody could be dropping into this conversation and hearing it on the second floor upstairs in my house. That's how good it is without even me knowing. So this whole conversation you and I are having, the third person on the second floor is hearing it. That's how good it can be.
Yeah, which actually sounds really useful in some ways.
Yeah, we use it as an intercom. So if somebody's upstairs, they can intercom down here, right? So there's good uses and there's also bad uses.
Exactly.
We have it for, but again, if you're in a situation that's the opposite, it could be a bad situation.
Yeah.
There's if you're calling, let's say you're calling for help, right, and you don't want the individual knowing you're reaching out to people or are discussing what's going on, or you're already kind of aware of the things are going towards the negative. Step outside. Best thing to do is step outside, a couple houses down from you, go out for a walk, take your device with you, make a phone call, and discuss those things outside. And that's only if you are in that situation. So not to say that it's always a bad thing, but in the event that you are in that situation, that would be the best course.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely going for a walk and go ahead and, make that call and, whatever it is you have to do. But if you feel like you're being watched, then definitely go for a walk. Let's talk about the pandemic. And so do you think that technology abuse has become more widespread during the pandemic?
I think in general, abuse, I've been reading some articles on this, how abuse has gone higher since the pandemic, right? Only because you're always with this individual, right? In the initial stages of this whole situation, you're always there. And sometimes they say, sometimes a little bit of time apart, even if it's 8 hours out of your day, it's very balancing in any relationship, because you're also your person and they're also their person. So what they do in those 8 hours or the 9 hours is, that it gives them some sort of balance, right? Away time from always being with someone. And I think when the pandemic hit, that whole schematic change, and when you're constantly with this person, and sometimes it's a good thing, right? You're like, yeah, great, we needed this time together so we could do this. Or some people were fixing houses, or whatever it was, and some were headed in the wrong direction, and I can't stand this, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And so a lot of people started adding devices to their home, even though there's a pandemic and people aren't really going anywhere, but just to kind of be like, all right, I have time to do this now. I have time to set this device up, or I have time to do this, or I have time to install this camera. So that time that we got during the pandemic really upgraded a lot of people's homes, for maybe the good and maybe the bad. So yes, it did affect the number of people who've added smart home devices to their homes.
Yeah, definitely. It affected them, like you say, because the abuser, the victim, are in the house together every day. And so, yeah, having all this time, now there's more technology in your house. Now you're able to watch what this person is doing from the other room.
Correct.
Also, it could be more difficult to even call and get some type of help, or, to just look for resources on your computer or on your phone when, the abuser is in the next room. So that can be difficult too.
That's the best thing to do is, like I said, step out of the house. And again, there's a lot of people, like I have a lot of these devices, and I've never, thankfully ever been in this situation like that. But like I prepare myself, and I'm ready to be like, all right, if this ever happened, what would be my very first step? That would be to walk out the house, get in my car, and go somewhere safe. Yes, I turn off my device right away so they don't know where I'm going. And then the third thing would be to have my, emergency card ready and be like, all right, I need to call. This is, my first call is finding a safe place. Second call is the bank or this or that. If they have access to your funds, or if you have joined, and there's a lot, everybody's relationship is different. Everybody's, the way they share things is different. So not everybody has everything separate. And, we live the motto, like, we have everything separate, but we share our responsibilities. So that's the best way we could approach it, where I am my individual and this person is theirs, but we know what our common goals are and what needs to get done first, right? Those are our priorities. And so this is how we've made everything fair for both my husband and I. And that necessarily doesn't happen in all relationships. Sometimes it's just the husband that's the earner, or the wife that's the earner, or whatever. So it all varies. Your victims or will know their situation better than you and I can never. So always, if you need help, just, call somebody to kind of lay things out better for you. Like, hey, if I was to go through the situation, how would I handle or how would I do this, or how would I do this? Research is available again at your fingertips nowadays. So instead of posting pictures of your lunch, do your research and make sure you have first, so that way you don't ever are not trying to scramble last minute.
Perfect. Yeah. So what I hear you talking about is about boundaries. And that's actually something that we were just talking about last week is, every relationship is different, and you'll learn and you'll know what those boundaries are that you want to set in your own relationship. which aren't necessarily the same boundaries that somebody else. Also, you said that, technology can be used in a supportive manner as well. With technology, you contact, you've got your support system, you've got your friends, you've got your family that you can reach with just the touch of a finger. So not only can we talk about all this pros and cons, but technology can be used as a good thing. It can be used to access support. It can be used to access safety.
Right.
And another a way that abusers use technology is they might withhold technology from the victim just because they know that this is a way that they can access support.
Yeah. So withholding technology can occur, right? They can take away your phone, right? Or your computer or any of that. But let's just say that there was something that might not be so pleasant on this phone that if my, better half took it away, I could be like, oh my God, if they ever saw this, or this would happen, or that would happen. Don't ever have anything on there like that, right? I think it goes both. Sometimes it may be like both ways, right? So don't have anything that might hurt them, or they don't have anything that might hurt you. It goes both ways in certain aspects, and that's not always the case. Sometimes it is just one individual abusing the other. But just don't keep anything on your device that could be cause more problems. Especially for women, I think I was just raised like, hey, be 100% ladylike. Don't put anything on your phone or anywhere ever that could ever come back and be like, hey, look at what you're doing. This is how you portray yourself, but really this is how you are. So if you don't want to be in situations like that, or don't want to get into a worse situation, don't ever have anything that's really not the best. And everybody is their individual, and they might have things on there, but if that's the case, then the best thing to do is take your device with you, turn it off, or don't have it on there.
Yeah, so the last thing that I've got on my list of topics I wanted to talk about, you already kind of covered, but if you have any more tips for domestic violence survivors regarding technology that you'd want to share?
Yeah. So we've been talking about, we can't always look at it in a negative light. There's so many positives, right? I think just the world's progress, right? We've come together and more closer, in other terms, because of technology, right? Before, I remember the days where you had to go get a phone card to call international, and now you don't need to. So it's changed, and it's made things so much more convenient. With information, its availability is everywhere. I feel like if you're a survivor, you've got goals, and you want to better yourself, right? I don't know if you've got, some of them have children or something like that, and you just want to lead a better life. Enroll in classes. There's so many libraries that offer you to come in and take, a course there, or use their free resources, right? You're not really paying much for them. There's so many organizations that will help you reach your educational goals, and that could better you. I think when you go through I've never been in a situation, I can't speak how sometimes it's a very, very drastic fall, right? It takes a lot of time, and there's so many variants of abuse, and sometimes it's very, mental, emotional, financial, physical. So it takes a long time for people to recover. So it all depends on, when you're ready. There's so many places out there that can help you and just turn everything around, and you get so much better. And the main thing is you got to have the drive, right? You got to have the drive to be better. You got to have a goal, and it's possible. We live in one of the greatest countries in the world, and it has so many opportunities. It's beyond, like, you can go to another country and you will never find opportunities that you can here. And help as a woman, right? I come from a country that doesn't, if abuse was going on, it's not talked about. There's no help. You just got to deal with it. Okay, those are things that are just kind of like, well, if you got physically abused, okay, it'll get better tomorrow. You got to stay married. You have children now. Who's going to marry you now? At least we're in a place where we don't have to hear that, right? We don't have to be a part of that anymore. We have the option to go. So be very grateful for that. And I think once you see that abuse somewhere else in another country, you're just kind of like, wow, here you can really turn around your situation and become something great. You know, the lady that wrote Harry Potter books. I mean, that's a very good inspirational story. Like, look at her now. So just reading about some of these individuals, like what they went through and how they came about, and really get some motivation.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love everything you just said. It's possible to get there. Technology can even help you get there, right? I know right now with the pandemic, there's all these online classes that you can take that weren't even available before. So I'm even considering going back to school now because I can do it from home.
Yeah, you can, especially if you've got kids or you've got other obligations. It makes it so much easier because you could do it any time of day, right? You can log in at 10 o'clock at night when they're sleeping, but you just got to have the drive to do it, right?
Exactly.
If you've got kids, the best thing to do is make sure that they don't ever have to experience this ever again, and provide a better future for themselves, for them and yourself, more importantly. Get all the help you can. There's so many, like your guys' organization, you guys do so much for a lot of these victims, and definitely utilize that. You know, I know you guys would go anywhere in any way to kind of get help for somebody. So, you know, kudos to you guys for doing such a good job. So you guys are available, and there's other people like yourselves that would do anything to help anybody. So use that.
Perfect. I really appreciate this information, Miriam. This is you have so much knowledge, and this is really helpful. And I really hope that it gets out there to somebody who needs it, or somebody who can pass it along to somebody who needs it, because really you never know who could be going through this type of situation.
Right. And everybody's situation varies, and you can definitely share my information with the people that are watching this today. If there's anything that they want to ask me a question about or have questions about, I can find you the research. I can guide you in the right direction, and I can do my part, in this grand thing that you guys are doing. So even my little small contribution will make me feel real good.
Thank you. So yeah, speaking of questions, Zach, do you mind checking if we have any questions in the comments?
Sure. We do have one question from earlier in the conversation,
Okay.
which was, how can people find out whether someone is using an app to access or spy on their private tech info, like text messages, emails? Is there anything that they can do?
Okay, I think we covered this a little bit, but we can go ahead and go over that.
Yeah. So again, some applications are, especially when you have a spy application, that's what it's there for. That's why it's called spy, right? It's very undetectable. It's installed on the actual system itself. It doesn't show up as so every phone has a system, and then it's got its application. So it gets installed on the system and things. What we can do is I can find you guys, like I said, we talked about finding a link or something that has some information as to what type of programs there are, what they can do, or how better to look for them. And I can definitely find you guys a more informational document that shows how you can find these applications and look for them. But again, the number one thing is the indicators that you should know. If you are being watched, again, information that you didn't share is now being, spoken about or talked about. And then, hey, I never told you I was doing this, but how do you know? That sort of situation. I feel like our human instincts are a lot better than what our phones will tell us. So I'll definitely get you guys a link on that you guys can share with your viewers. It'll have a lot more information as to how to really look for those.
Yeah, please. And then you can go ahead and send that to me, or I'll go ahead and add that into the comments section. But yeah, that was a really, really good question, because how do you know, right? A lot of these are just hidden. I would like to say though, like I mentioned before, if there's certain things that this person knows about you that you've never mentioned around them, but you've mentioned them on your phone, you searched it up on your phone, and you find a pattern, just like Miriam says, trust your instincts. So every relationship is different. Everybody's safety plan is very different. So yeah, just come up with a safety plan. If you have access to another phone and you can do your research on that other phone, then make sure that you do those types of things on the device that you think is not being monitored.
Another thing with devices, like let's say everybody has their own phone, but they may not all have their own laptops or desktops, or so sometimes most homes have a shared computer. If you're ever in a situation like this, please do not use that shared computer to look up resources, browse information, only because they can find your search history. It's very easy to do it. even, or you have to be conscious of clearing your browsing history every time you're done using the computer, which a lot of people, initially you will remember, but eventually there will be that one day that you forget. So if you're in a situation like this, don't use shared device. Always go to the library or go somewhere else. And I think the best thing to do is always have a neighbor that you can trust, right? Someone who you can share this content and information with, and will be able to help you or allow you to use your device or get you help. So the best resources are the ones that are closest to you, and then work your way out from there.
Yeah, definitely. Any other questions, Zach?
Let me just take one last
Sure. Refresh your page there.
Okay, I think that was it for right now. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Miriam. We really appreciate you being here with us. Thank you for all the information. Do you have any last words at all? I know you've said a lot.
No, not. I mean, we can go in. Like, you and I talked about one time when we were talking for a very long time, and I was like, "There's so much to talk about because there's so much." Even though technology has grown, our world has sort of shrunk, is the way I look at it, and I feel like everything. The best way I could describe it is someone that took, like if you're supposed to send them a piece of mail, it would take days to get there, and now you can send it within seconds. So even though it's really like our information gets shared that quickly, and it's
Yes.
that it can become viral that quickly. So be very careful of what you put out there. Always use your judgment on what you think is okay and what you may think might come back again and may not be the best scenario for you. And technology is great, right? I deal with it every day, and the potential of what it can do as far as businesses and like organizations yourself, and like how to make things more available for your victims and providing resources, how to make it faster. That's what it does, right? On the other hand, but on the other side, it can also be very, I guess, trouble for the person. So I'm here to answer any more questions that they might have later. If they watch this later, just definitely reach out to me, and I will get you guys that document so you can share it with your viewers.
Thank you, Miriam. I really, really appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to share this video, and we will see you again next week at the same time, same place with a different team. Bye, everyone.
Hey, everyone.